everyone. Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And thank you all so much for being here. We're super excited to jump into chapters 31 through 36 of Onyx Storm today. But first, if you don't already, follow us on all the things. We're at L.A.M E Book Club Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. We have our own website. Everything. It's just at L.A.M E Book Club Pod. So follow us if you don't already. Leave a review if you have an Apple product or iOS, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. Or if not, still, like I said, following and liking helps. We do actually have a review of the week. Ellie, are you ready?
Yeah. Yay. Yes. I love these.
Me too. It says, finally done. The 5-star review I procrastinated from KJ Wick 14. 5 stars. Starting out by saying, I apologize for procrastinating this review for the past 6+ months. I truly love this podcast, and I am sorry it has taken me so long. I got back into reading last year when I read ACOTAR and had maybe one person to talk to about it and went searching for more and found you. I have been listening ever since, and you two truly make me laugh, and I've enjoyed falling in love with reading again. I especially love that I'm not the only one quoting Disney, animated films, and other miscellaneous quotes while reading and talking about these books. All this to say, no notes, and I can't wait for what's to come. Everyone who loves reading romantasy/fantasy should listen to Melissa and Ellie. Oh, thank you.
That's so nice. Thank you so much, KJ Wick.
I may be biased, but dare I say, I agree with this. Everyone should be listening to us. I'm just kidding.
I love it.
But seriously, thank you. And thank you for everyone who has left reviews and follow us. Big thanks.
Yeah, we're like one review away from a 100. That's crazy.
Yes. So crazy.
Love it. Okay. We have merch, everybody. We have totes and we have stickers, and you can find them at lamebookclubpod.com. If you're part of our Patreon, you get 15% off. So join our Patreon, because not only the discount, we're starting finale next week. We finished Caraval and Legendary as Stephanie Garber series. It's so much fun. We have our live book club. At the time we're recording this, it's tomorrow night. It's donut themed. If you are on our Patreon, if you know, you know. And it's going to be a blast. We can't wait. We have a couple Patreon shout outs. So welcome to Haley and Katie.
Woo! Thank you very much for being here. And before we jump in today, just a quick spoiler warning. We will be talking all things that happened in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. If you're reading Onyx Storm, I would have assumed that you have read those, but I just want to clarify, we will also be talking about those books. And also everything through chapter 36 in Onyx Storm is fair game as well, but we will not talk about anything past chapter 36. So if you aren't there yet, don't worry, this is safe space. We will not be spoiling anything that happens later on in the book.
Yes. Okay, I'm so excited to start because so this past week I posted our half-baked theories from our last episode, and it got some good responses, but also people started writing in, giving us their theories as well. And there was one that really caught my eye that I can't believe we just kind of overlooked. And I'm curious if you know which one it is, but for our listeners, I will read it. So once again, if you're a listener and you want to discuss your theory, leave us a comment, a review, a DM, and we'll try to talk about it. So, Riddick and his signet. It's stronger, undeniably. We're seeing it in the book. The text has spoken, and he is now able to freeze fruit, aka possibly freeze water in someone's body. Now we're seeing what seems like Xaden's signet grow from what was once reading intentions to now just straight up reading minds. So Abby TX Realty on YouTube left a comment saying that she saw a reel that theorized the reason everyone's signets are becoming more powerful in this book specifically is because...
Wait, can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it because Violet is an amplifier?
No.
Oh.
That's a good guess, though. That's a good guess.
Thank you.
It's because... Do you remember in the very beginning of this book when Violet and the gang were messing with the wards to let the Flyers get their magic back, and they put that disc on on the rock?
Yes.
That it may have messed with something that was keeping a damper on all of the cadets' signets without even realizing it. By placing that disc on the ward stone, she unintentionally took the damper off. Because all of them said, we don't really know what this does outside of the fact that, like, good luck to us, we just want to get the Flyers' powers back. Yeah.
But and I'd have to go back to double check this, but wasn't there, like, at least once, I'm pretty sure it was at the dinner with King Cortland, where it was there that Xaden kind of read her mind, and that would have nothing to do with the words of Esgaeth.
Might not. But Xaden might have always been keeping the secret. He might be a singled out alone one. But I thought that was so interesting because I scrounge for bits in every single sentence, and I just completely overlooked this entire scene, taking it for face value of, they get their powers back, the end. But what if there's so much more to that?
That's so fair. I love that idea, and I would love for that to be true. I'm not sure if I'm sold simply because I think there have been situations outside of Esgaeth where like their signets have proven to still be stronger, which, but also I guess that could just play into it. Well, it could play into it because they're outside of the ward, so that still would have, they're outside of whatever would have been dampening their power if that is the case. So it's possible that they would still, I have to think this one through before I keep talking about it.
Think about.
There is. I like it. I like it.
I like it a lot. Okay, so on that note, I do want to talk about this. How do we foresee other signets developing? Whether it's the disc that was attached to the ward or just they're developing their own signets, they're honing it in from natural causes. If everyone's signets are getting stronger for some reason, what are some things that we could see happening? So I have a list of characters and some potential thoughts, and I want to know yours too. But I'll start.
You go first.
Obviously Riddick.
No, you start.
Okay.
You start since you have a list, and then if I think of anything that's not on your list, then I'll add it.
Okay. So Riddick, we know he can wield the ice, and the growth is that he can draw ice out of the water, similar to Frozone, and in the air. And he can potentially freeze water in someone's body. Do you see that going any other way, even stronger than that?
I mean, I think we're kind of downplaying what that means. If he could pull water essentially from the air, I don't want to quote Mean Girls, the limit does not exist for what he could do. I mean, I think we've essentially summarized the option of him doing literally anything other than making fire. So
that's fair.
That feels like a pretty big one. Being able to literally freeze someone from kill someone because you're freezing the liquid in their body is asinine. That would be probably one of the worst ways to die that I could imagine. And I would love for him
falling out of the sky in a plane. Yeah.
Fair. Also that. I think I would rather get frozen from the inside than fall out of a plane. And I know that might not make sense, but it feels quicker.
It feels right to me.
Less time for me to spiral, quite literally and emotionally and physically.
Okay, I have another person. In this one, I think that, once again, the limit does not exist with how this power could manipulate and change, but Imogen. She is a memory eraser. And if her signet continues to develop, I wonder if she could potentially reach a point where she could create memories as well.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. You know what I would love? I would hate, but also kind of love it. If I'm not even going to pretend like I know what is going to happen, but let's say at the end of book 5, and then we just learn, because we know from the very, very beginning of Fourth Wing that all of what we're reading has been transcribed by Jacinia. And so then we learn that Imogen, kind of like maybe even what you said, like her, not only can she erase them, but can create them. We learn that none of what we read actually happened. And it was all Imogen like creating the story or the narrative because of her signet. And then we get like a prequel series or spin-off for her or something. Or that would be kind of interesting.
Wait, you caused me to spiral. What if this series is actually only 4 books and the 5th is like the story retold, Imogen's version of how she's the one who just
Taylor's
kept
version.
It going in and out of all the realities.
Be so crazy. That would be wild.
I'm surprised so far that we haven't seen her do anything yet, because again, she is my foreseen big bad, and she's nowhere to be seen in this book.
The less we see of her, the more that it's feeding that for me. That we're like, it's almost like Rebecca is just keeping her hidden until she's like, release the Imogen, and then everything is gonna hit the fan. Like that. I love it. The longer she is kept in the dark or out of the story, the worse her release is gonna be to me. Like,
I can see that too. Okay, Quinn, astral projection. Could she manifest? So she obviously can manifest like fake beings, right? Because they'll see like Violet, and Violet's not actually there. What if she could manifest a tangible being over time?
See, I feel crazy? Like that does seem crazy AI? To me. No, that does seem crazy to me because then that's completely different Signet. Like, that's not astro projecting anymore.
Also,
that's
I feel the same with Imogens. I think as I said it out loud, I was like, but that's completely different. Creating memories versus erase. Nope. I stand by it, actually. I stand by it.
It is different, but for some reason, that feels different to me than this one. And that's probably my delusion and crazy, but I'm sticking to it. I think for Quinn, her like honing it and it becoming like a bigger Signet would be potentially like astral projecting entire armies to like for the sake of like thinking that they have more people on their side, the fear of it.
Wait, yeah. There's a whole X-Men scene in the third one, very similar.
I was
going to
say, I don't think this is super original, but it does feel like something that that would be
seen often, though. It's not seen often, and I would love that.
Yeah. I could see that her like being able to, instead of just project, because I know we also know she can project other people, so that wouldn't necessarily be growth because she can already do that. So I think not only being able to project others, but then multiple people at the same time, to me, is where the growth would go.
That's awesome. I like that one. Okay. Rhiannon. Retrieving her, that's her Signet. Could she conjure things that she's thinking of from like abroad rather than like things she's just seeing or knows are behind a door?
That would be my thought process on how hers would develop. I was originally thinking like maybe she could like, because that would be similar to distance wielding, but different because it's objects and not herself.
Right.
So that's where I'm like, I feel like that's still plausible because it is still different, even though it's like, let's say the cousin Signet, if you will. But I was thinking, I was just trying to think how we wouldn't cross that line. So yes, I don't think she could create like summon things that she's just made up in her mind. That feels very different. But I think like, let's say they're in Erasia and she's thinking of something that would be helpful in her door and back at Bisgayeth, if she could summon it from there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I think that would be probably the next step for her.
All right. And lastly that I have on this list today is Dane. And I actually saw this one from Faithfully Fantasy Pod. They have an awesome take. You guys should check it out if you haven't. But potentially he could read memories without touching people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe, I don't know. That feels like the natural next step for me with his Signet.
There's actually, they talked about this, but there are hints in Iron Flame that he's already doing it. And I won't go more into that because that's their episode. You guys should see it. But it was very fascinating. I'm a little bit on board with that already.
I'm a little bit on board with it. I'm going to have to start paying attention more to that now.
I saw a reel, or not a reel, but like a post this week that said, maturing is starting to have a crush on Dane Atos. And I could not agree more. He's really growing.
Amen. If that ain't the truth. If that's not
I think
Salone,
we're healing from Sarah's damage. Rebecca's healing us from our mistrust with Tamlin.
Amen. I was going to say the person that you don't have on your list that I would be curious to see is Mira. And I'm wondering if she is going to be the answer to the ward situation in Erasia. If her Signet progresses, if she would essentially be able to create wards out of nothing. That feels like her natural. Assuming that we're not able to get the seventh breed to come and fire up the ward stones, because we know that they're already starting to break, and we know, or we're pretty sure that the Venin are in on it at this point as well, and so that's why they're starting to move their people down to that area. I could see her being the answer to that, but also more than that, I'm wondering, assuming she's not a big bad like we were thinking she might be, I don't know. I don't want that to be for her, and I feel like it would be pretty shocking if that did end up being. I'm not discrediting it or not saying it can't happen, but I do think I'd be a lot more shocked by that than some other routes that this story could go in. I'm almost wondering, especially since what was the bookstore in Deverelli, the owner?
Narelle.
Thank you. Narelle made a comment like Violet is going to go down their dad's path, and she looked at Mira and said, I wonder what path yours is. I'm wondering if she's going to sacrifice herself the same way Lilith did, and that's her path.
Ugh, I cannot imagine Violet's pain if that happens.
I know. But sacrificing herself for the wards in Eratia to keep him up. It would mirror her mom's path.
Like
just like
literally
Violet's
ripping
path
her
is
apart to keep this ward. That'd be crazy. Well,
crazy.
Guys, the only way through is through, as we say. So, chapter 31, let's start. We pick back up in Unbriel, one of the aisles, where Violet has laid eyes on the silvered-haired temple attendants.
I forgot where we ended, and I'm shook all over again. Continue.
The last one she sees specifically has just bleached tips. I'm just kidding. Just silver tips. Could you imagine? Could you imagine what a shift in this book would be if Violet's hair wasn't silver, but it was bleached tips, and we got to say it was just a Justin Timberlake style throughout this whole book.
Just some iced tips, or what is it?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm frosted tips. There it is.
Frosted tips.
Just some 90s, early thousands frosted tips. I would love that callback, honestly.
That'd be so good. But before Violet can even process what is happening, out of a tunnel come 3 individuals, 2 large men and 1 woman. Again, in order to gain an audience with the queen, they need to win this duel. Their strongest v. the quest squad's strongest. Dane's doing his best to translate, but falling short when Arik steps up and speaks fluent Unbrish. So, okay.
I love this.
Me too, but I'm like, no, there was no other, I just loved it.
I know.
Maybe he could have been more helpful is all I'm thinking. Maybe he could have disclosed that he knew how to speak this language fluently.
Well, and there was even that conversation. There was even that conversation back when they were, her and Dane were pouring their literal lives into trying to, what was it? What's the word? Translate the journals. And she goes, "You could have helped us." And he just simply goes, "You never asked."
That's literally the same with this dialogue here. They're like, "You speak fluent Umbrish?" He's like, "You never asked." Guy.
No,
what is this?
That happened in the conversation. She's like, "Wait, you could have helped us." And it was the same thing. He's like, "You never asked." I just think part of me, if I was Violet, I would be livid. But because I'm not Violet, it just makes me laugh.
That's fair. That's so good. So what is translated then is that Xaden is the strongest, so he'll be the one to fight. A priestess slices Xaden's arm and his opponent's arm, marking them both as fighters. And there's a weird quote here, and I want to talk about this. The priestess walks up. She has this tattoo on her forehead of Dune's emblem, which, if memory serves, is the same tattoo that Theophany has on her forehead, no?
Ooh, my memory does not serve. I
think my memory serves. I might be wrong, but I think so. And Violet says she must be at least 75 years old. How long would it take for such a tattoo to fade to the point that it's unrecognizable? My stomach lurches into my throat. There's no way. And then she's cut off. Huh.
Ooh. Oh, yes. That would point back to our thought that the gods are not real deities. They're potentially just people who are now venom and have been it's lost in translation over time.
Right.
Yes.
That's where I'm going with that. My bananas theory is that Theophany is perhaps the goddess of war, Dune, and when she said the goddess demands her payment, perhaps Theophany, that is an old ritual she once did. Something to think about. Xaden is choosing his weapon. We might be so off base and just leading the blind follow the blind. This is one of those situations. I kind of hate myself, but also laugh really hard if it's nothing like that. And we're just nothing to do with that.
we are connecting, making so many things try and fit that are not don't have anything to do with anything.
Goodness gracious. I'm going to stick to my guns for now, but if we fall flat on our faces, we all fall flat on our faces. Xaden is choosing his weapon. And Violet makes a comment that he's fighting without his greatest weapon. Next thing we know, the priestess slices Dane's arm, putting him in the fight too against the other big boy. Violet is hardcore freaking out, and the priestess turns to her and says, "Did you choose your path?" And Violet debates well, I don't know, my mom kind of put me, and then she's like, "You know what? No, after all this time, I definitely chose my path." And she says it confidently. And the priestess says, and this is important to know, everyone, ears on, "It's good we did not complete your dedication." So
I know.
that screams to me Violet is definitely from here.
I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. I don't think it necessarily means that she's from here, but I do think that that's a callback to Lilith being sick. Maybe it was something that had to, like, maybe Lilith went there to try and, like, heal her. I don't, and that would make sense, I guess, maybe with the hair. I didn't get the vibe that she was from there specifically, although the fact that everyone has a similar hair to her would call back to that a little bit, but I don't know. I think I just would hate that, because then that would mean her dad isn't actually her dad. And I don't want that for her.
Well, or they brought her here and maybe for some reason wanted to keep her safe from something. There's another backstory here, and they were going to dedicate her, which then I know Mira said she was born with it, but I really think she wasn't. I think maybe it changed her hair at that point, and then they said, wait, no, we have to go back for some reason, and then left, and they never got to complete that dedication. So something.
Lots of possibilities. I don't know where, I don't have a solid thought on where I land with this just yet.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So the priestess then says, do you not yearn for the temple? And I have to just pause. The word yearn is the funniest thing for me. Anytime someone says, like, he yearns for the mines, or there was this old lady, she was 85, pushing 86, and said, I yearn for the urn. I think that is so funny.
Yearn for the urn is comedic gold. You're like, if the romantic, like, Pride and Prejudice era-esque phrase of, like, I yearn for you, that still gets me. Depends on who's saying it. If Jonathan Bailey says that, puddle immediately. I'm not a big fan of the actor in the revamp of Pride and Prejudice. I like him a lot, but he's not my favorite, Mr. Darcy. So, like, him saying it doesn't really do much for me.
Let it be known that the Lame Book Club pod has split ways after that sentence. That's crazy.
We're actually no longer. No, I love the actor. I think he's great. He just doesn't do it for me in Pride and Prejudice.
As far as attractiveness goes, I agree. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, my heart. But I think that adds to the story that his actions and the romantic side of him drew me in more than just the looks.
Well, see, exactly. It's the looks, but it's also the acting. Anyways, all that to say, yearn is funny. And before you even said an older lady yearning for the urn, for the urn, I was going to say, I just think the word is funny because it sounds so much like urn, so it makes me think of death. But so then
she was so cute. She's like, I have to put this on Instagram now. Don't worry, guys. I got you all. But she was like, I picked out my urn. It's got these palm trees. I put it in the kitchen so my kids know to put me in there when I'm gone. She's like, I yearn for the urn. And I was dead. It was so good. So the priestess says, do you not yearn for the temple? Usually the touch creates such a longing you can't help but return. Or perhaps you now favor another god. Unpack this with me, Melissa. The touch?
It is interesting that you say that because I, too, highlighted this exact conversation on my Kindle. I don't... I think it has something to do with her hair, again, but I just am so torn on what I think this means, honestly. Like,
I just want to know what the touch is. Is it gifting? Is it just the hair? Is it a calling on her life? I don't know. We'll have to just see. We can't. This
is one of those things, again, for me, and maybe it's so obvious, and I'm going to laugh if it is, but, like, I'm highlighting. It's there. It's noted. It is in the memory, but I am putting that in a little box. I have a feeling this is one of Rebecca's her writing style where she gives us the answer before exactly explaining the situation to us. And so we're just tucking that away for later safekeeping, and we will reference it back again when we are ready.
Then the priestess says, I still see us among your potential paths. Dune will accept you. It's not
Theophany.
Too late to choose her. Yeah, so that's where I'm going, because do you remember when Theophany was like, choose me, not the other person, when you come to me?
That is so
chills.
Fair. Yeah.
Something is awry here. Something is amiss. Then Miss P, the priestess, slices Violet's arm. She's fighting.
She's floating.
Chapter 32. And Darna is pissed, and that rage billows down the bond. The three find out that they have to use the same type of weapons, so Xaden, without hesitation, says daggers to give Violet the edge over himself and Dane. And I really liked that, but I have to shoot straight with you. If I was Dane, I'd be like, WTF. Like, for sure, Xaden would choose Violet, but like, I'm not part of this relationship. You just screwed me.
I know. Yeah, it's so fair.
I think I just sit there like jaw dropped, like, I guess daggers. I guess
I'm done. Yeah, daggers.
Imagine,
I guess that's
like,
it for me.
Just a couple next to you being like, we choose each other. I sacrifice for her, but you're like in this too. That's so just rude.
I know this is so dramatic, but that's literally how I felt my entire high school career, would you say, when anyone I was friends with was dating someone.
What?
I know. No, it's just like, it would be so, like, not even the same. But they're like, well, oh, what do you want for dinner? Oh, like, let's do this. And then I'm just sitting there like, yeah, I guess that sounds great, guys.
That's such a good analogy. Yes.
The stakes are not quite the same, but it gives me the same vibes.
That actually sounds great, guys. I love that.
Good thing I love pizza too. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Oh, Violet is basically chanting to herself to only stay focused on her fight with this woman. She cannot be concerned for Xaden or Dane right now. She starts out just scrappy. And I will admit, I was very impressed with her fighting because...
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've already talked about this, and I mentioned...
Book 1 and 2, Violet was not impressing me with her fighting. I was like, the girl is just getting beat. And she has... No. I just didn't think that she was going to fight as well as she did here. And I was very impressed. I know. That's where I'm going.
I'm more or less talking about the conversation we had 1, maybe 2 episodes ago where you...
It was 1.
Kat made that comment about her not being a good fighter, and you're like, yeah, she's not. And I said, just wait for it. I'll bet there's a moment where all of the training is going to pull off. Guess where we're at, Ellie? Guess what moment has arrived?
No, you're right.
I am vindicated.
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me and why still I'm just like, it doesn't feel right to me because it just seems like she went from 0 to 8 in fighting level. You know what I mean? Not 0 necessarily, but maybe 4 to 8. And I'm like, she should have been 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. But it just went from like, I'm poisoning that's what it is. She went from I'm poisoning them to have the upper hand to I'm one of the best fighters.
I think you're forgetting I think you're forgetting there's an entire book and a half in between when she was poisoning friends to now. She has subtly gotten better. She has progressively gotten better and shown that like all of the training that she's done with Xaden and Imogen and all that
she's good.
She is good, and I just think you forget that anytime we talk about. I'm a 4 when it comes to fighting. Violet is not a 4.
That's rating yourself so high already. I don't know. Our skills might be different. Okay, wait. Let me just say.
You're so mean. I forgot you're a black belt.
I'm not even. I would say maybe I'm a 4, which is why I think you're
undervaluing how scrappy I can be. Maybe technically I'm a 0.
I've never seen you
fight. To get the job done, I think I could be a 3 or a 4. What's the incentive? Why am I fighting?
I don't even know what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
Violet is scrappy. That's where we're going. She's got the upper hand. I'm impressed for once. But then, that's what I was going to say. I am so impressed with Onyx Storm as a whole. And I honestly think it has everything to do with Violet's character development. Because I don't know if I just discounted all of Iron Flame. Most I can remember is Fourth Wing right now in this exact moment. And from there, she was the underdog. She was weaker. She had to make a bunch of adjustments and like kind of manipulate the system so that she could get ahead and stay level with everyone else, where everyone was like, oh, I hop up the gauntlet. I hop up my dragon. Like I'm there. She had to figure out all this stuff. And that's awesome. I loved seeing her be able to overcome those challenges. But in this book, it's like, not only has she overcome, she now knows that's the level I always have to be at. And she's confident in that. And she's a good fighter now. And her power is being honed in. I really like the FMC right now. I really like Violet, this book.
I agree. I like her a lot too. I do think you're forgetting a lot of character development that happened in Iron Flame.
It's probably true.
But I think that's because a big focus of Iron Flame was the miscommunication between Violet and Xaden. And that drove me up a wall. But everything that happened was needed, and like come to the end of Iron Flame, we learn why. Like,
right.
So I'm not saying it wasn't as good of a story, but I think her character development wasn't as it wasn't quite as obvious as it is now, that because now we're just like, oh, she's this like whole grown person, like and I think we forget about a lot of the trials that she went through in Iron Flame and a lot of the things that she worked on, so that it makes a lot of sense now why she's able to fight so well, why she's starting to get a little bit more accurate with her signet and everything. And I think a lot of that from Iron Flame kind of gets forgotten easily. I'm not saying everyone does or that you did specifically, but I do think it's easy to kind of lump that together underneath the banner of just Xaden and Violet disagreeing the entire time. And I am guilty of having done that as well, until I think about her progress and I'm like, oh yeah, no, she did run every morning with Imogen. She was fighting and that learning
was her
how
Rocky
all these
Balboa
skills
comeuppance, but yeah, it literally was
Cinderella
the training
story
before the fight. Yeah, no, yeah. I totally agree with you. That was the training before the fight, and this book is the fight, and I really like it. I just like where she's at. That's all I could say.
Yeah.
So the gal that she's fighting gets the upper hand for a moment by cracking Violet's ribs.
Ouch.
Do you remember? It's funny that this came up. I was talking about a boy in our high school this week with my husband who cracked his ribs during a football game. Do you remember him?
No, give me initials.
You would not. CK.
Okay. No.
No. That's okay. I was just thinking about that. Anyways, so she cracks her ribs. Yikes. Violet makes big notes about her adrenaline feeling like power. No, I think that this was power, because it was like 3 times she kept saying, like, oh, I just feel like power is rising up in me, but it couldn't be. Oh, the adrenaline in me feels like power, but it's not. No, I think that this was power. Were you on that same page?
Not during reading this, not once did that cross my mind. I was just a girl reading this part. I was not theorizing, which I should have been. My tin cap was not on, or foil cap. What is it? Foil? Tin foil cap was not on as it should have been, like an idiot. But remind me, Umbriel doesn't have any magic, right?
No magic, no.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was thinking with where I was going with this was on the right page. No, I wasn't thinking about anything in the moment when it kept saying that, like, oh, I just felt like that was her anger, like, rising. And because she's so used to power, she doesn't really know what it feels like without it. That's just the easiest way for her to explain it, is kind of what I was thinking.
To be honest, I was so banking on her second signet manifesting here that I was just reading for it. I was like skipping lines to just find out what that second signet was. It didn't come.
Well, apparently it's already manifested. It's just more or less this being the reveal is what you mean.
Right. I just wanted the reveal. Yeah. Violet does a little jujitsu move and shuffles her little body around this lady to take her down. She's holding her, but Miss Ma'am won't yield. She tells Violet something along the lines of, you may have me, but Costa has him. And Violet sees Xaden seconds away from death. She throws the dagger and saves Xaden while simultaneously pulling out another dagger against her opponent. Craziness.
See, I had issues with this scene. And
why?
Well, it just felt really unrealistic to me. Because, like, don't get me wrong, I understand that, like, fighting and battle is the main source of just even existence for everyone on this isle. But so far, we have never been anywhere or met anyone that could best Xaden, signet or no. Like, he, even without his signet, it goes over and over and over again with how he's such a trained fighter and how he's so skilled even without a signet, and his signet just makes him that much more deadly. Like, even earlier in this book when he was the one stupid heir or the third year who could wield, what was it, fire or whatever, and thought he was like, okay, what qualifies you to be a professor? And he just showed him up. And granted, again, I understand that there's a big difference between a third year cadet and this supposedly strongest fighter on this whole isle, but I didn't like that this is what happened and that he was losing, because it felt like, it just felt like something to add, to write in to distract Violet, and it just grind my gears. And I really don't know why, but I didn't like it.
I think it easily could have been Dane in Xaden's position rather than Xaden, and Violet still would have gone through to save him.
Dane was unconscious. Like, Dane also was kind of in the same situation. And I understand, like, she doesn't care. She cares about Dane, but not nearly in the same way or as much as Xaden. So I get that he is the one person that would have pulled her out of her focus. But I hear you. I just think she could have written it differently to where it was, Violet was concerned about both of them. She hears something happening with Dane, and then she sees Xaden, and Xaden says, like, don't worry, I can hold my own. And then she's worried about Dane. Like, I just think that would have been a little bit more realistic talent-wise. But again, I do see, like, the fear that, like, immediately filled her veins with it being Xaden in trouble versus Dane. That I understand. I wish it was something other than fighting then with what got him in trouble, because it just didn't feel realistic to me that he would have been bested that quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it didn't bother me until now, and now it bothers me greatly. And I do think that she would have done the exact same thing for Dane, and this scene could have been just as good, except Xaden would have never been in the face of death, and his skills wouldn't have been questioned. So I'm there with you. So, quote unquote, from the book, rage sizzles the rain on her skin. Girl, yeah, right. And then lightning starts to strike around them. This is her power. Like, this is her power. There's no question in my mind. Every time she talks about yielding back on the continent, when she says, like, oh, I felt the power, she talks about the, like, power sizzling the rain on her skin. That has been a sentence that's been used a couple times before. So there's no way that this isn't that in my head, at least.
Well, even without that verbiage, there is not a sentence in this book that has not related Violet to lightning. So you're telling me that the coincidence of there being a storm with her exact signet when there's no clouds in the sky at the exact moment that she's the most angry and has the most quote unquote power sizzling through her veins is something that isn't her? Like, magic or no, I don't freaking care. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, part of me was a little bit worried that she channeled on accident. Because we saw Xaden do it on purpose, but on an island where there was no power, he still somehow wielded. And then we learned it was because he used her conduit. And because there's no magic on this, I got nervous that, because I, like, exactly like you said, not for 1 second in my mind did I think this was anything other than her signet manifesting and her making the lightning strike. But because we know there's no power, I was like, crap, did she just channel from the earth? But then we just kind of move on from it. And so I was like, well, maybe she didn't. This is the first time speaking of this out loud, and so my thoughts may not connect together, but I'm curious if this has everything to do with this being Dune's island, where she may have come from. The temple being like their sacred place, and that they were like, don't come near our temple. What if there's some sort of power that only she could have channeled or something like that, because it's her people, her place? I don't know. Well, pause. Here I come. Again, first time saying this out loud, the thought just popped in my mind. What if it goes even deeper than that, and it's less that those are her people, but she is a descendant of Dune, which would mean somehow potentially theophany. The signets are the same, not just similar. But then it would make sense why, if there is somehow some stored power there that only Dune would have been able to access, it would make sense why she could have tapped into it at that moment if she was somehow a descendant. I'm speaking like this just now popped in my head. I haven't thought through all of how, like, the potential reasons why that wouldn't make sense, but ooh, I like it. And that would also kind of make sense. That would also kind of make sense with what the priestess said about doesn't the touch, like if it had something to do with her touch, then maybe this is a callback to that. I don't know. Again, I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe it doesn't make any sense and I'm trying to connect dots that don't exist, but
well, there's a lot of that in this episode, so we will continue on. So the lady yields, and Xaden immediately checks Violet, asking if the lightning was her. She reminds him, it couldn't possibly be me, there's no power here, and it's just coincidence. The fact that that even has to be said in this book, in this sentence, it is power, and it's not coincidence. But then she thinks, or Dune. Huh. So that kind of adds into what we were just thinking. Yep. Then Miss Lady, the opponent, yells, I'm fine. And someone says, yes, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, Violet just dueled the queen herself.
Not for 1 second did I think that she was going to be the queen. But
not me either, yeah.
If I shouldn't have. That makes perfect sense why the queen would be one of the most powerful and why the queen would be fighting on an island that values battle and warriors. Obviously, the queen is going to be
obvious
if not
when we
one
take
of
a
the
step
best.
Back.
Yes. But in the moment, I'm like, they couldn't possibly risk their monarchy in a trivial battle such as this.
I'm staring at a painting and I'm staring so closely, like just an inch away from it, trying to find all the details. When if I took a step back, it's like, oh, the whole picture's right there.
That was a very good analogy.
If that's not the whole book. Thank you. So she calls Violet and her friends Emerali. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. I have not listened to the audiobooks. No one come at me. Just gently nudge me in the right direction, please, if that's wrong. And I think that...
I haven't either. That's how I've been saying it, if it makes you feel any better.
It does. I think that we're about to find out what that word finally means. But before that, Queen Marlis asks, how did you do it? And nods to the terraced seats carved into the wall that are cracked down the middle. Violet reiterates that there's no magic. And I think that that's interesting that that's brought up a second time. And then words are exchanged between the two. The queen settles on the fact that they're not going to fight, but they will let the riders and flyers land. They can rest and they can hunt on Umbriel, very same as Deverelli. And then they would fight if those on the continent were willing to trade dragons. Are you psycho?
The fact that this keeps getting brought up concerns me. Oh, shoot. I just had another off-the-cuff idea.
Let's hear it.
What if Halden ends up screwing everything up again because he tries to deal in dragons at some point? I just feel like they keep getting brought up enough to where like we're gonna have to revisit this again. Mm-hmm. And I fear that we're gonna have to revisit it with it being what's happening. And essentially they're gonna have to change history instead of like rewrite it instead of living it all over again. And unfortunately, living it all over again means not trading dragons. So rewriting it, I fear, could mean trading dragons. But I just don't know. I don't know what that would look like. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it's just this little chunk of the book, it's brought up and then we never hear about it again. But
it's crazy to me that they think that the humans have the power to trade these dragons that are their own very sentient beings that have their own culture and history and lifestyle.
It's also so crazy to me.
They're not just pets.
It's also so crazy to me that Halden would think just because you stole something means it's your possession. The ego on some of these people is astounding. So
It's true.
Especially someone who isn't a writer. He doesn't understand the dragons and dragonkind the same way. Yeah, he doesn't get that. It's not sacred to him. It doesn't mean anything to him. And he views himself as the person in charge or the person who's next in line to be in charge. So he feels like everything is owed to him. And he has small pee-pee because of it. So
oh boy. Chapter 33. I can't disagree. The queen says, bring us like 12 eggs and we'll fight with you. And Violet is like, no, which this is so weird to me. Why do they want eggs as opposed to feather tails? Violet thinks it's because they are more malleable from eggs. And my question is, but then what do they want to do with the dragons? If they don't want the dragons as they are, why do you need them malleable? Are you going to train them to do something crazy? They're already they're built for war. Like,
yeah,
join
that's true.
Viscayeth and become a rider. I'm confused what you want to do with them.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think about it until just now. You're right. Like, they are already warriors with the way that they're being used. So if you want them to be used differently, like, they're already ruthless. I don't know how else you could make anything but
unless
that.
they just want to change their alliances, which I'd argue the dragons don't really have like strong alliances with one.
Fair, but type. They don't know. These people don't know anything about dragons. Like, we got that already with the warrior who peed his pants when he saw them. Like, they've never even seen dragons. There's no way that they would know that much about them. I mean, I think the queen probably knows more than just a random foot soldier, but still, I can't imagine she would know enough about them to understand that, which is why they're maybe making that comment. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, Queen Marlis ends the conversation with, maybe giving me 12 is worth saving the rest. As in, if they give her 12, she'll give them their army and they can save the rest of the dragons from the venom. And something deep inside my plums is telling me that the woman is going to get those eggs. And I don't like it.
Oh, my plums were not saying that, so.
It's such a specific conversation. It's so specific to, like, I don't know, just kind of what's happened. I just think that she's going to end up getting these eggs, and I don't like that.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it does make it was said to be put out there in the sense of, like, well, it's better than losing everything. Kind of like, so maybe Violet's going to be stuck between a rock and a hard place and feel like that's her only way out, potentially. But I don't know. I don't think she ever could bring herself to do that, even if it was to save people. Because she's bonded to two dragons. Like, and I don't, unless they gave her the
they're
okay.
her people too. Yeah. I guess. Well, the Empyrean would have to. Yeah. Okay.
No.
So we'll just have to see. And steal eggs? No way, no how.
I don't know what to tell you, Ellie. That's just what my plums are saying.
Okay. Mira catches up with the group and asks Violet if she wielded. For the third time, Violet has to remind them that there's no power. And for the third time, I am screaming that she wielded, because why would they ask this 3 times? That's crazy.
I know.
Moreover, I think that it has absolutely something to do with Dune. Because this is just not normal. This is not normal behavior from this fantasy book. She then asks Mira when her hair turns silver at the ends, and Mira says it grew in that way, which I think is a lie. Violet and the rest of us are now curious when she was supposed to be dedicated, because that practice was outlawed way long ago. So, yeah. That sentence kind of came out funny, but you get my gist.
I get your gist, and I agree. Don't really have much to say on that, but it's tucked in a box, Ellie. It's in a box.
I think we've tired the subject, but I'm just questions on questions. They then fly away to Hedotus. Hedotus?
I think, I can't remember how I read it in my mind. I think I said Hedotus as well, but it was my first inclination on how to say it is almost always wrong. So,
well, that's the first time I'm saying it out loud. I've written it, but I've not had to say it. Hedotus is known as the Isle of Wisdom, and I'm seeing a trend here. Each location has a different god that represents their entire way of life. Dune with the war, Hedion with Hedotus, Zinel, the god of luck. The whole isle is made of muted colors, and a new city that was built on top of the original structures the Hedotus people raised. And Darna is fairly certain her kind would not have settled here because it's not a good vibe. And Violet insists that they at least ask, because they have to exhaust all territories.
Well, and it was also, not only are they looking for the kind, they're also looking for a cure. And you'd think that the Isle of Wisdom would maybe have something too. So she knows time is of the essence, and that they are ultimately looking for the 7th breed, but she's also trying to find anything she possibly can for a cure for Xaden.
Help. Yeah. Also allies. So if allies are good.
If that were me, I would still want to take at least a day just to ask some subtle questions to get some feelers out there, see what we could find and stuff, and hopefully maybe get some answers for the other reasons she's searching for things.
Yep. We get to witness some received flirting on behalf of Traeger and Kat. It seems that Kat is giving him a chance, and I'm here for it.
I know.
love that.
I'm a big fan of feline and smoked meat together. I like that. I like this couple.
No.
Those are the nicknames I gave them in my head.
I love that. Feline and smoked meat. The next part is so crazy, so everyone hold on. Half a dozen people in tunics and pastels walk down to the beach to welcome the quest squad. One Ferris introduces himself as the second of the triumvirate. I don't know if I said that right. Again, it's the first time I'm saying that word out loud. I guess that this is a thing for all the Isles because I believe Deverelli had a triumvirate. I don't know about the last one, but this one does.
Deverelli had King Cortland. The last one had a queen. This one's different.
No, one of the other ones had a triumvirate.
I don't think I've ever read that word before, so I'm not saying that there's not a possibility that I'm wrong, but I don't think it was for the last two Isles. It might have been somewhere else.
Kerm, maybe. His eyes are noted to be so blue that they're purple, and I didn't want to write that in, but the way they noted this in the book, I was like, it might be worth noting because it might come back around somehow, some way.
True. Also, it immediately made me think of Reese from Guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they do say violet eyes.
I wonder if that's a little nod. We don't know. So here's where everything goes bananas. He says, "Darling, come say hello," Ferris does. And out from the crowd pops Xaden's mom. I did not think this was how we'd meet her.
I guess maybe not how I thought we'd meet her either. Not, at least let me take that back. Not how I had hoped we would meet her, but not for 1 millisecond was I surprised because I just knew in my bones, I've said it on many an episode before this one, that Xaden's mom was not done. We were not done with her. We were going to get more.
Yep.
And so I really was just patting myself on the back here. I don't feel like that was like a crazy theory that no one else thought of, but it was one that I did come up with myself before I started reading things online. So
was disappointed because I thought, and obviously we've all read this chapter, but I really thought that she would have been so much more of a saving grace for this story than what she was. I really thought she'd play a bigger role, that she would have answers, that she would come to help, that it would all just have been a big misunderstanding. And it was not. And turns out she sucks, and I'll get into that. So
yeah, but honestly, her sucking feels more realistic given what we know. I think it would be harder to accept her being a savior, given that she abandoned him at some point.
True.
I mean, I guess we don't know. Whatever backstory Rebecca would have given us, I think I would have accepted. But like you said, we've read this chapter. We know like what's coming. To me, I was like, I hate this, but I appreciate how realistic it is, and it's
very
fell into place with what we knew already of her character.
Yeah. So we pan in on Violet holding Xaden's mother at bay in a bedroom doorway of her own home because Xaden does not want to talk to her, and I do not blame him. She gives them a tray of snackies, including sugar-covered dates that used to be Xaden's favorites. Talia, who is Xaden's mom, invites them to dinner and promises the whole triumvirate will be there if they show up. At that point, Violet does not feel as bad for her in this situation because that offer seemed manipulative. And your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was trying to gauge at this point, like I said before we knew more about her story, I was trying to gauge if I thought that she was actually trying to help them or not. Like, are you really just trying to get to know him? Because like you're offering exactly what they're looking for, which is a meeting with everyone on a silver platter with the sugar dates. But is this just
quite
a
literally
ruse?
on a silver platter?
Quite literally. But I'm like, or is there some weird angle that we just haven't seen yet that you're just using him for something in return? Like I was cautiously optimistic with this at this point.
As was I. Well, I don't know. I was getting a bad taste from her. You can't help it. I didn't get a bad taste. I just was so skeptical, which if you've listened to any episodes, you would know that that's not surprise. That's exactly how I feel about every character. But it did not lose. It held up true with his mom as well. Yeah. Happy with Violet's agreement to try to get Xaden to show up for dinner, Talia leaves, and Xaden and Violet are left to themselves. He pulls out the vials that Bodhi gave Violet.
Pulls out the violets?
the vials that Bodhi gave Violet and says, these fell out of your pack. And this rubbed me the wrong way because, like, the conversation went into, like, oh, I'm really glad you have them because I need to be stopped if the time calls for it. But this rubbed me the wrong way because they fell out, or were you snooping? And
Yeah.
I think Melissa's rubbing off on me because I'm suspicious of everyone now, even the most trusted, even Xaden.
I think Ellie is rubbing off on me now because I took that at face value and was like, wow, she dropped the vials. What an idiot. Good thing he returned them.
A little swap. So he's happy again because she can protect herself against him should he turn on her. But then Xaden points out that Sigil is pacing because she's worried. Worried for what exactly? I know the situation is not looking good with the quest, with Xaden, and with his mom. But is there something else going on with her? We know that she and Taryn are kind of distant right now. She's like not hunting with him. Now she's pacing. She's worried. This is brought up specifically in the book. I'm curious about her. I'm curious if she's holding some secrets.
Yeah, I'm still curious, so we can keep going.
Xaden and Violet have a long talk about his mother and the choices she made to leave him and the choice of whether he should show up for dinner that night. We find out that Talia gave Xaden chocolate cake for his birthday on his 10th birthday and then fled that same night. And that hurt me deeply.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was hard to read, especially being a mom. Again, I know this isn't real, but the best books are when you make a very real situation and real emotion like feel like make sense also within this unrealistic storyline and everything. Mm-hmm. And I just cannot fathom leaving my kid. Like,
I know.
And I get like, I guess thinking, like, trying to put myself in her shoes, like, you want to give him one last good memory and you know that's his favorite, so you want to like make him happy one more time. But oh gosh, I just at this point too, I need to know why she left. Like,
right, we're only getting like his perspective of it.
Yeah, the more we learn about her leaving and everything, because it's just from his point of view, I'm like, you just are a really crappy person, and I need to hear your side of the story, because unless it's like a life or death thing, yeah, you suck and I hate you and I will never count you back. Like, this is the worst thing you could have done.
Yeah.
So,
which is basically where Xaden is, and darn it if I'm not nearly there with him. So
yeah.
Xaden then tells Sigil to go eat and she roars back at him. Two young boys run out to see the dragon and Talia runs out to ask if the boys are all right, to which they respond, "Mama, you should have seen it roar." Ugh.
I know. I was cooked. No, just kidding. I knew I for not one moment of reading this book nor my life's existence since started reading Fourth Wing and learning that his mom left, did I think that not only would she have gone, like, she wasn't dead, but that she wouldn't have started another family. I would have assumed that we would have gotten more story, and so whether or not it was something that was going to make me angry or empathize with her was still on the table. But yeah. I did not for 1 second believe that she wouldn't have some other kids, because what else rubs salt in the wound more than feeling like not only were you abandoned, but that you were not good enough and they started over.
Have you ever seen Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants?
Yes, that's it. I feel like this is like a classic subplot in so many other movies. So that's another reason why I was not surprised that this happened.
The immediate callback to me was seeing America Ferrera's face in the window when she's watching her dad have this whole new family. That's how I felt. Xaden just like watched through the window that his mom remarried, has a whole new family. It crushed me. It crushed me then. It crushes me now. This subplot hurts me deeply. Yeah. Violet is there and is just like, let me hold your pain. And she comforts him. And that also crushed me deeply, but in an opposite way, in like a good way. She then notices that they sent the boys away, suspicious, and comes to the conclusion.
Was super suspicious. Yeah.
That the triumvirate is planning on testing them tonight at dinner. Xaden agrees to go, and Violet knows that she needs an edge. She remembers Brennan packed a med kit for them and goes to find Mira. 2 hours later, she and Mira are gifting Talia with dried air mint for tea with dinner.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't really think too much of it because I didn't really know what the tea did, other than the fact that Xaden one time mentioned it was his mom's favorite, and then like, oh, thank God for Brennan, and that was it. So I was like, Okay.
Immediately, I
Let's
was
go
like,
to
it's
dinner.
poison. It's absolutely poison. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
See, this was me looking at the 1 inch of painting and not taking a step back.
Anything food ever in this book
Fair.
is poison.
That's so
Chapter
fair.
35. At the dinner, the triumvirate are in attendance, as well as the entire quest squad and Talia. Xaden is cold. The point of this test is to find out if the quest squad, who represents the continent, are wise. The conversation starts off asking if the griffins/dragons die when their riders/flyers die. Kat chimes in with her answer, which then shifts the conversation to, wouldn't it have been wise to pair Kat and Xaden together to tie their territories in holy matrimony? And the triumvirate reveals that they were made aware that Xaden's title was restored to him months ago, which means like the Duke of Tyrandor and Cat of Peromiel should have made a perfect match.
Cat of Peromiel.
I don't know.
The heir to the potential throne of whatever.
Pormish. Pormish throne. Yeah.
Peromish.
Well, so this means all that, yeah, fine, whatever, it's bad. But also, this means that they had current information this whole time. They knew when he became Duke, so they knew what happened with the rebellion. They've known all of this. And that makes the blow even worse that Talia knew what was happening, especially with the rebellion, and left Xaden there anyways and never went back for him.
It was in that moment that there was maybe a 1% chance I would change my mind if we got more of her story, but that I hated this woman and that there was nothing she could say was going to change the excuse that she would have given as far as to why she left.
It's heartbreaking. They deem Xaden and Violet's pairing unwise. Then they try to talk him into a contract with Kat for at least like 3 to 4 years, just long enough to secure an heir for Tyrandor. What the
could you imagine being Violet and smoked meat during this conversation? I bet they're just looking at each other like, are we actually talking about this?
Is
like,
this
and
for real?
I know that Kat and Traeger aren't, like, as far as we know, officially a thing, but, like, it seems pretty obvious that they're into each other. And even though it's new and not as, like, established as Xaden and Violet, I still would be like, what does that mean for us? What the heck? Are we just chopped liver? I know he's smoked meat, but am I chopped liver? Like, this, I do not talk about this right in front of me.
I just could not even believe that this is the first conversation any of them are having with this group of people. And they're like, you don't know us at all. We have nothing over you. We have, like, we're just people, but you should listen to us because you two should be together. Give up everything else. We just know
because
the best.
It's wise.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is craziness. I felt like I was reading a series of unfortunate events. Like, just how bonkers these things were, these conversations.
I was just waiting for us to learn, because, okay, honestly, though, the contract thing it didn't make sense, but it did make a little bit more sense. I guess we already knew that Xaden's mom and his dad had a marriage contract for 10 years to secure an heir, and then after the kid turned 10, she was allowed to go. Like, we knew about the contract already. So I guess hearing it from their perspective, it does make a little bit more sense that if she's from here, that's what she was like, how she was raised. That I'm not excusing it, and I still think she's a garbage dumpster fire of a human being for actually following through on it, but it makes a little bit more sense. What doesn't make sense to me then, and what I kept waiting for this whole dinner was, okay, so you're telling me that Violet and Xaden aren't a wise pair, that Kat and Xaden would be for, as far as like diplomatic political reasons. What the heck? How is the marriage between Ferris or whatever and his mom? Where's the wisdom in that? Where's the contract? Like, that it doesn't sound like there's any contract. It sounds like they genuinely love each other. Love is the opposite of wise. Emotions are not wise. So you can't sit here and say that that's what's wise when
to allow
you're
some room for Satan, though. I do think that neither of them have any like political gain at this point, because she already did her duty in, I guess, I actually feel like that's the better argument, is why did she marry Xaden's dad for the contract of like to produce an heir for Tyrandor when they're two, the Isle and Tyrandor are not related anymore. Like, they have no ties together anymore. Like, what was the point of Xaden outside of just being the heir for Tyrandor, I guess? Because there's also Bodhi. So anyways, that's getting too into the weeds, I think. All that to say, this is just crazy talk, and I can't believe that this is happening. It was bananas. So Xaden retorts, go ahead, drop the papers. And everyone's kind of like, pardon?
I know.
And he says...
I literally couldn't. I was like, excuse me? I know you're kind of having an existential crisis with seeing your mom. But do you not remember the last 2 books?
He goes, draw it up. Here's how you spell Violet's last name, 2 R's. And then everyone said, we got it.
Yep.
But also, another marriage call out. Interesting.
I know.
It's like the third one this book.
If not more. I think there's like 4 or 5. But yes, agree. I'm like, it feels inevitable. And I'm okay with it, actually.
Yeah.
I am
actually,
a fan.
We're fine with that.
Yeah.
So then Xaden blows up by saying his mother would know that he would never leave Violet if she knew him at all. Like we know him, and we do know that. Then let's talk about this next part. The part where
I know that's not her name.
Talia.
I know.
The part where Talia justifies herself. Did you understand her side at all at this point? So she says she couldn't take Xaden because he was Tyrandor's heir. She then says that they would have executed her right next to his father if she stayed. That's why she had to go. She didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I didn't really care that much about it at that point. She'd already lost me. Because I just feel like, where there's a will, there's a way. There's been so many situations where Xaden and Violet have been in where it's like both sides are crappy and they find a way to make a new path. And I think she just didn't try hard enough for me to respect her. Honestly.
Here's the thing. She obviously had live updates as to what was happening, clearly by the news that they've gotten. She must have known that the rebellion had subsided. They probably wouldn't recognize her if she came back and said, oh, I'm just some lowly woman or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they would have executed her. Maybe not, though. I would have tried to go back.
I just think
she could have tried to go back.
I think there's plenty of time had like knowing everything. I don't know. I just think it was bull. I think it was a really convenient excuse
to have a conversation with Xaden and be
exactly
like,
at the very
can't
least
stay here because they'll kill me. But when you are old enough, you can change things. So come back for me. I still love you. That kind of thing. A letter could have been fine.
I was just about to say, I don't know, a note. I'm sure they have carrier pigeons. Like I think
they're obviously getting news, so they could send news back out. That's just
it's very possible
a lack of
for
trying to me.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is why I called her a dumpster garbage fire person, and I just think that's
Let us know in the comments what you think about this situation. Was it justified? Was it not? Do you understand it? Do you not? So then Mira bites back with a whole spiel about how this interview was set up for them to fail from the beginning. Violet goes in further with just facts, and also you guys suck. You destroyed an existing historical city to build your new one, showing that you have an intolerance for things that are not beautiful and efficient. Yet you also don't have a port, but you're a seaside town. That doesn't make sense. That's not wise. And then the triumvirate responds, well, it would be unwise to venture into water not knowing what lurks below. That was interesting to me. Oh. I think there's something there.
Oh,
I think
Ellie.
that's easily skipped over, but
I am so proud of you, and I am also annoyed. I feel like not only did I rub off on you, I feel like you stole that from me. I just read this for what it was. I'm like, because I immediately thought fish. I read this well before the story of, what was it called? What kind of fish was it? The anglerfish.
Oh, the anglerfish, yeah.
Yeah, that. But I mean, I knew of the fact that, like, even in the real world, we only know like 70 or 75% of the ocean is still unexplored and unknown. Yeah. So I just kind of chalked this up to be like, well, yep, that's how it is in real life too. I get it.
Yeah,
there's a reason I don't. Yeah, there's a reason I don't venture out into the open sea. So I don't know.
So Violet questions if they're aquaphobic, but here's where my mind went. What if there's some kind of monster in there that is either part of their myths or something that they've seen personally? And maybe that ties into the gods as well. But I think that's going to come back around for sure. Because when she said they're aquaphobic, it was in italics. And I don't think Rebecca puts things in italics that don't come back around. Mark my words.
I'm marking them. We're all marking them.
Then after this episode, there's about 100 new things to mark.
I know.
Then they ask, or they talk about how they won't take criticism, the triumvirate. They talk about how they won't take criticism from a group that doesn't even know the name of their own continent. And I knew that this was coming soon.
Yep.
Turns out the name of their continent that houses Tyrandor, Navarre, Peromio, all of that, is Emeralis. Because every isle worships one member of the pantheon, and though they celebrate all of them, they hold one above all others. And so Emeralis is for Amari, the queen of the gods.
I feel like I'm trying to think back into the book. I know comments like that have been made that like Amari is the one that is the most sacred. I just feel like they like I guess she says thank Amari a lot. I was trying to remember like how often she references any of the gods, and I just feel like Dune and Zanal are brought up more than Amari.
Please, you're in my head. Because when they said that, I even said, who's Amari? Because I know that they talk about Malik once every
Malik too.
page. It's like we're giving it to Malik, like praises and all that kind of thing. But like Amari's never brought up. So the fact that their continent is known for holding Amari at the highest of all the gods was really surprising to me. I really thought it would have been after Malik, but maybe that's just because they are in a war college that they constantly are like, give it to Malik. He's with Malik now because everyone's dying.
I think that's more of it.
Arik then speaks up and gives basically that exact answer. He then says that he doesn't even want them as allies because they're lacking. He's like, I find you lacking, and I really appreciated this. You have no army, and you're stingy with the one thing that's free to everybody, knowledge. And I was like, I like you, Arik. I'll keep you around. You keep growing on me.
I'll keep you around.
The final test ends with Ferris, who ushers in the servants with dessert. It's chocolate cake.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Of all the triumvirates, all of the triumvirates' forks are missing. And it was so obvious to me I could spit. I was like, don't eat the cake. It came out on a silver platter. If anything, we know that anything coming out on a silver platter as like
is death.
A thing is death. Yeah. Violet figures it out too, but only just slightly too late because Garrick scarfed down like 2/3 of the cake in seconds, which I can't be upset about that because I do the same thing.
Because damn it if I wouldn't have eaten. Jinx.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
She screams
honestly, that was that was sad though too, because I think we always think about like Xaden, and obviously all of these things impacted Xaden the most. But Bodhi and Garrick grew up with him too. I think they all probably liked the chocolate cake as well. So Garrick even like was like, "Oh yeah, like I love the cake." Like, and that just really broke me in a way that I wasn't expecting, because the poor boy just wanted his nostalgic chocolate cake too. He wasn't trying to die. He wasn't even supposed to be there.
Things we never thought of. That's so heartbreaking. Yeah.
That was my first thought reading this.
Poor Garrick. Well, poor Garrick as well, because he is poisoned, and Violet screams for everyone to not eat this cake. Garrick collapses. He is not breathing. I'm thinking we're about to lose Garrick. I'm also thinking there's no way he's indispensable right now. We cannot lose him. Then I'm thinking,
what I was thinking
Rebecca
too.
Doesn't care, maybe.
Fair.
So, last chapter of the day, and I think there are big Easter eggs in this chapter, so everyone turn on your listening ears. Click, click. Violet calls the dragons. Melissa, I don't know if you guys know that. Melissa says that to her kid all the time, so I adopted that.
Except I say it. I know. That made me laugh. I say it when she's not listening. I'm like, put on your listening ears. And I don't know where it came from, but she started doing the click, click, and like pretending to put like her ears on. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, click, click. Violet calls the dragons back and then starts to attempt to figure out what kind of poison Garrick just ingested. She's smelling the cake and catches notes of fermentation. And to be honest, this is where I actually thought the glowing poisonous moth orbs would come back into play. But it was not.
I forgot about those already.
And not me.
Good.
And I still think they're going to come back at some point.
I want them to because of how much you want them to. I want
need
it
a shirt
badly enough
with just
for
glowing
you.
moth orb. Yeah.
That just says that. Like, no picture, just glowing moth orb. That's it. No context.
The one thing in this book, I am going to die
visuals.
on this hill. If those do not come back, I'm done. It's at this point that Talia catches on to what's happening and screams, "You poisoned my son!" And here's the Easter egg, everyone. Look me in the eyes. I think that we need to pause and we need to reflect here. Because is she dumb or is she keeping secrets? Obviously, Xaden is not the one writhing on the ground, not breathing. So my bets are on the fact that she's not dumb. Ferris responds to her and says, "Your son was wise enough not to eat it." But I think that she already knew that Xaden didn't take a bite. Is my tinfoil hat on correct? Because do you catch what I'm saying?
That
Garrick's on the ground.
Not just his best friend, he's his brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I've seen that floating around online. And
have you?
That wasn't.
I thought it was the original.
Well, I can't remember if maybe it was my own thought or if I saw it online, but I feel like I've seen it online. And that's not what I thought initially. I really fell into Rebecca's trap, assuming this is true. I fell into Rebecca's trap of being like, oh, she just assumed. Well, I did think it was weird because we all knew that Xaden didn't eat it, but I was more or less thinking that she was just saying like, you tried to poison my son, but the words just came out, you poisoned my son.
That's where she gets you.
Well,
Wordplay.
Exactly.
Something's there.
So I fell into the trap initially, but I would love more details on this because I don't think that's going to change my mind on the... Actually, if anything, I'm doubling down on the fact that she's a dumpster fire of a human. No, not only leaving Xaden, but if she knew Garrick was her son and she left still... She left 2 sons? Are you fracking kidding me? Like, that sucks.
But then I'm also not on this too. Like, I am and I'm not, because that one sentence is like, I'm sold. But then wouldn't there be some kind of like Violet always says Bodhi looks so much like Xaden and they're cousins. So if Garrick was his brother, don't you think that he would be so similar? That there would just be an undeniable, like, he looks so much like him.
Yes and no, not necessarily, because he probably just favors the other side. So like they would only be half related through her. And if Xaden favors his dad, and then obviously Bodhi's related to him through his dad, then that would be, he could just look more like her side of the family, and that wouldn't really mean anything to me. And she had some other
lover, and that's Garrick's father.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so
or
Talia...
his father had an affair or something. Because I don't think, we don't really know.
No, but it wouldn't be her son then. No, it wouldn't be her son.
Oh, duh. You're right. She would have had to give his. We're not seahorses. The dads don't give birth. Yes, fair. Yep. That would be a really hard thing to read then, because that means everything Garrick would have known in his life is a lie. Like whoever raised him weren't actually his parents. And how could she have kept a secret pregnancy? Are they twins? No,
because then they'd have to look like each other more than what they do. They could be fraternal. Yeah, but more than what they do. Because again, if Violet is saying Bodhi looks so much like Xaden, Garrick would have to look like Xaden.
You know, the more we talk about this, the more I'm with you.
The more off
that line, that line is damning, but nothing else makes sense with the information we have right now.
But I actually agree, because if she had an affair and Garrick just takes after the father, then it would make sense that he maybe doesn't look like Xaden, and Violet just missed a couple things in his face and like, oh, now I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, something's happening. So Talia backs up against a wall in his stifling cries. And again, I'm thinking...
Wait, pause.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm just thinking about it. I'm still thinking about Garrick and Xaden.
Uh-huh.
It has been noted that Garrick is the only one that rivals Xaden in size, if not bigger. So there's that.
There's that.
They might not have the similar features, but they're both big boys.
Uh-oh. We're on to something. So Talia's backed up against a wall and she's stifling cries, to which I ask, yeah, maybe the situation's dire, or maybe there's something more, because why are you crying for your son's friend? I don't know. Maybe she's empathetic. Maybe she's crying for her son. It's probably nothing, but is it?
Maybe she just sucks, and let's leave it at that.
Violet then reveals her counter. She explains that the air mint that she gave them in their tea actually is poisonous, and unless they give her a trade for Garrick's antidote, she's not going to give them an antidote. But Ferris is so stubborn. He does not care. No trade. That's crazy to me.
It's bananas, as Ellie would say.
It is bananas. So Violet runs off to find the cook. She spots him with blue half moons under his nails, which obviously, points to the Eris birds, which obviously points to the answer of the poison in the cake. You had to read it to know.
If you know, you know.
Violet knows now what the poison is, but before she can say, the cook runs to attack them with a knife. They're deadly killers. They even point this out in the book. They're like, why would he do that? He knows we're trained killers. Violet stabs him in the hand, Halden style, and pins him to the wall. But
you mean King Cortland style?
King Cortland. The king, or the cook at that time, lodged a knife in Riddick's side. I screamed.
The first thing I thought of was that old Vine of the kid. The mom's like, "What are you running with?" Or "What do you have in your hand?" And he goes, "A knife!" And he's just running around like a trampoline.
Yes, I love that. It
was giving that for me. A knife.
Well, that's where we end today. And I'm so concerned for Riddick. I don't know. Don't want to speak more into that. I'm very concerned.
I wasn't.
You thought he would just live? Yeah.
I didn't know what I thought was going to happen, but I didn't think that this was the end for Riddick. And because I just feel like we're getting too... I know Rebecca is not afraid to kill off characters. She killed off Liam, and I would have bet my life that Liam wasn't actually going to die in that scene. So I have been wrong about deaths before, but I just feel like why start to give us more of him only to kill him off at this point? Like before he actually does anything with the character that you're developing. So for me, that's why I wasn't worried, but who's to say?
Not me. I went completely the opposite. I was like, he's so loved. She's built his character up so much, gotten a spot in this quest squad after his like fight for it. And now he dies because we love him. And it makes all the sense to me.
All right.
But we shall see chapters 37 through 36, 42 next week. 37 through 42. Yeah, thank you. And we will see you all next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Have a good one and chef's kiss, everyone. Bye.